It was a blustery, biting evening in the heart of New York City. The sidewalks teemed with people rushing to escape the sharp fall chill, their breath visible in the air. Anna Miller sat on a concrete stoop near a busy intersection, clutching a threadbare coat around her shoulders. Her eyes scanned the passing crowds, but no one seemed to notice her. It had been months since she'd lost her job, and even longer since she'd stopped hoping anyone would. For Anna, each day was a battle of survival, finding warmth, food, and a safe place to sleep. The nights were the hardest. The city never truly slept, but the darkness was always colder, lonelier, more dangerous. She had grown used to being invisible, blending into the background as people hurried by, consumed with their own lives. That evening, as the wind howled and she shivered in the inadequate warmth of her coat, she felt more exhausted than usual. Her stomach growled, reminding her that she hadn't eaten more than a few scraps all day. Just as she was about to retreat deeper into the shadows, something unexpected happened. A man stopped in front of her. "Hey," a deep voice said. Startled, Anna looked up, her heart pounding. She half expected him to be a police officer telling her to move along, but the figure standing before her was a well-dressed man, completely out of place in her world. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, his shoes gleaming even in the dim streetlights. "You okay?" he asked, crouching down so they were at eye level. Anna narrowed her eyes, unsure of what to make of him. "I'm fine," she mumbled, pulling her coat tighter around her as if it could somehow shield her from the intrusion. The man didn't seem fazed by her curt response. Instead, he extended his hand. "My name's Ethan," he said, "and I think we might be able to help each other." Anna stared at his hand, not moving to take it. What was this guy's deal? She had grown accustomed to the occasional handouts, mostly loose change or food from people passing by. But this was different. He didn't offer her money or food. Instead, he looked at her with an intensity that made her uneasy. "Why are you talking to me?" Anna asked, her voice laced with suspicion. "What do you want?" Ethan smiled faintly, a look of understanding flashing across his features. "I know this might sound strange," he began, "but I need a favor. I'm going to a wedding this weekend, and I need someone to come with me. As my date." For a moment, Anna wondered if she had misheard him. A date? To a wedding? From the looks of him, he could afford to bring anyone he wanted. He could pick from a sea of beautiful, well-dressed women who would be thrilled to stand at his side. Why was he asking her? "Are you serious?" she asked, blinking up at him in disbelief. Ethan nodded, his expression sincere. "I'm serious. I'll explain everything. But first, I want to help you." He gestured toward the street where a black car idled at the curb, its windows tinted. "Come with me. We can talk in the car and I'll get you something to eat. You don't have to agree to anything right now. I just want to make sure you're warm and fed." Anna hesitated. Every instinct told her to be cautious. She had learned not to trust easily, especially someone like him. But at the same time, her empty stomach and the bitter cold gnawed at her resolve. What did she really have to lose? Slowly, she stood up, her legs stiff from sitting on the cold pavement for so long. "Okay," she said quietly, though her heart raced with uncertainty. Ethan smiled and led her toward the car. As they approached, a driver stepped out and opened the door for them. The warmth that greeted Anna as she slid into the plush leather seat was almost overwhelming. She hadn't been inside a car like this in, well, ever. Once they were both seated, the driver started the engine and pulled into the street. Ethan turned to face her. "I know this probably seems strange, and you're probably wondering what's going on." "Yeah, you could say that," Anna replied, her voice still guarded. He nodded, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "Here's the situation. I'm attending a wedding this weekend, my ex-fiancé's wedding. We broke up about a year ago and, let's just say, it wasn't the most amicable split. She comes from a wealthy family, very much part of the high society world, and she's marrying someone who fits perfectly into that life." Anna raised an eyebrow. "And you don't?" Ethan chuckled, though there was a bitterness to it. I do, technically. But the truth is, I've always felt like an outsider in that world. I worked hard to get where I am. My family didn't come from money, and I've never been comfortable with the fake smiles and backstabbing that come with it. When Lauren, my ex, left me, it felt like she was choosing that world over me. Anna listened, still unsure where she fit into all of this. "So why do you need me?" she asked, cutting to the point. Ethan's gaze softened. "Because I don't want to show up with someone who fits into that mold. I want someone who's real, someone who can remind me of what matters. You don't belong to their world, and that's exactly why I'm asking you." Anna frowned, still confused. "But why would you bring me? Won't it just cause more problems for you? I mean, I'm homeless." Ethan leaned forward, his eyes locking onto hers. "Exactly. I want to show them that I don't care about their opinions. I want to prove that their status, their wealth, it means nothing to me anymore." The sincerity in his voice took Anna by surprise. She had expected this to be some kind of cruel joke, but there was something genuine in the way he spoke. Still, it was a lot to take in. "And what's in it for me?" Anna asked, her voice quiet but steady. Ethan's expression softened further. "You'll be taken care of. I'll make sure you have everything you need: clothes, food, a place to stay. But beyond that, maybe it'll give you a chance to see that you deserve more than what life has thrown at you. You don't have to accept being invisible." Anna stared at him, her mind racing. It was a bizarre offer, but she couldn't deny the allure of it. For the first time in months, someone was seeing her as more than just another homeless woman on the street. He was offering her a chance, albeit a strange one. After a long silence, Anna finally nodded. "All right, I'll do it." The next morning, Anna awoke in a bed far too comfortable for her to believe it was real. For the first time in months, she hadn't slept on a hard park bench or the cold ground of a shelter. Instead, she was surrounded by soft linens in a hotel room that looked like it had been plucked from a luxury travel magazine. It all felt surreal. A soft knock at the door startled her, and a moment later, a woman entered, carrying a garment bag draped over her arm. "Good morning, Miss Miller," the woman said with a professional smile. "I'm here to help you get ready for the wedding." Anna sat up, still half in disbelief. "You can just call me Anna," she mumbled, watching the woman hang the garment bag on a hook by the door. The woman, who introduced herself as Claire, was friendly but efficient. She wasted no time in explaining the plan for the day. First, there would be hair and makeup, followed by fitting into the gown Ethan had selected for her. Anna felt overwhelmed by the attention, but Claire's calm demeanour helped put her somewhat at ease. As she sat in front of the vanity, her reflection barely recognisable under the hands of the professional makeup artist, Anna couldn't help but wonder how she had ended up here. Just days ago, she had been invisible, another nameless face on the streets. Now she was being transformed into someone who looked like she belonged at a high society event. But beneath the makeup and the dress, she still felt like an imposter. By the time the preparations were complete, Anna stood in front of the full-length mirror, staring at her reflection in disbelief. The navy gown clung to her slender frame, its fabric shimmering subtly under the soft light. Her hair, once tangled and unruly, was now styled into soft waves that framed her face. She barely recognized herself. Just as she was about to ask Claire if this was all some elaborate dream, there was another knock at the door. Ethan stepped into the room dressed in a sharp black tuxedo. He paused when he saw her, his eyes widening slightly. "You look incredible," he said, his voice filled with genuine awe. Anna felt her cheeks heat up under the makeup. "Thanks," she muttered, still feeling out of place. Ethan smiled, walking over to stand beside her in front of the mirror. "You clean up pretty well." Anna chuckled nervously, glancing at their reflection. They looked like two people from completely different worlds, and in many ways they were. But for the first time, she didn't feel like she was entirely out of place. "You ready for this?" Ethan asked, turning to face her. Anna took a deep breath, her nerves kicking in. I think so. Don't worry, he said, his voice reassuring. You've got this. Just be yourself. That's all I'm asking. With that, they made their way to the car waiting outside. As they drove to the wedding venue, the reality of what she was about to do began to sink in. She was about to walk into a world she had never known, a world of wealth, power, and privilege. And yet, somehow, she felt ready for it. The venue was more extravagant than anything Anna could have imagined. It was an opulent estate on the outskirts of the city, with sprawling gardens and grandiose architecture that looked like it had been plucked from a fairy tale. The kind of place that screamed old money and status. As they pulled up to the entrance, Anna felt her heart racing. She had never been surrounded by so much wealth in her life. Everywhere she looked, there were impeccably dressed guests, expensive cars, and staff bustling around to ensure everything was perfect. Remember, Ethan whispered as they stepped out of the car. Just breathe. You belong here as much as anyone. Anna nodded, though she wasn't sure she believed him. Still, she straightened her back and lifted her chin as they walked toward the grand entrance, her arm linked with Ethan's. Immediately, she could feel the eyes of the guests on them. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd as they entered the lavish reception hall. It was a grand space filled with chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows, and elegant floral arrangements that seemed to defy gravity. Anna's breath caught in her throat at the sheer scale of it all. But it wasn't the room that unnerved her. It was the stairs. Is that Ethan Kane? Who's he with? I heard he brought a homeless woman. The murmurs followed them as they made their way through the crowd. Anna could feel the judgment in the air, the curiosity mingled with disdain. She had expected this, of course, but it didn't make it any easier. Every step felt like walking a tightrope with the world waiting for her to fall. Ethan, however, seemed completely unfazed. He greeted people with polite smiles, introducing Anna with the same respect and warmth he had shown her from the beginning. And slowly she began to relax. Maybe she could do this after all. That was until they reached the center of the room where the bride and groom stood receiving their guests. Lauren Hartley was the kind of woman who belonged in this world. Tall, slender, and beautiful, she radiated elegance in her designer wedding gown, every inch of her crafted to perfection. Standing beside her was her new husband, a man who looked as though he had stepped out of a high-end fashion ad, handsome, wealthy, and completely self-assured. As soon as Lauren spotted Ethan and Anna, her smile faltered. For a brief moment, there was a flash of something in her eyes. Surprise? Disgust? It was hard to tell, but she quickly masked it with a cool, controlled expression as they approached. Ethan, she greeted him, her voice smooth as silk. I didn't expect you to come. Lauren, Ethan replied, his tone equally composed. Congratulations. Lauren's eyes flicked toward Anna, her smile tightening. And who is your guest? This is Anna, Ethan said, his voice steady. She's a friend. A friend? Lauren echoed, her tone dripping with thinly veiled condescension. How lovely. Anna could feel the weight of Lauren's judgment, but she refused to let it show. Instead, she smiled politely, offering a small nod in greeting. Well, Lauren continued, her eyes scanning Anna from head to toe. I'm glad you could make it. I hope you enjoy the wedding. With that, she turned her attention to the next guests, dismissing them both without another word. Ethan led Anna away, his hand resting lightly on her back in a gesture of reassurance. Ignore her, he whispered. She's just trying to get under your skin. Anna nodded, though the encounter had left her rattled. She could feel the eyes of the guests on her, their curiosity mingled with judgment. But she had come this far. There was no turning back now. The wedding reception was in full swing, with music filling the air and guests mingling, laughing, and dancing. Anna found herself standing at the edge of the dance floor, watching the scene unfold. She had never seen anything like it. So much wealth, so much extravagance. It was overwhelming and yet strangely fascinating. Ethan had been pulled into conversations with several of his old acquaintances, leaving Anna momentarily alone. She felt a strange mixture of relief and anxiety. Part of her wanted to blend into the background, to escape the constant scrutiny of the guests. But another part of her felt defiant. She had agreed to come here, to stand beside Ethan as his date. She wasn't going to let their judgment get to her. As she stood there, sipping a glass of water, she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Well, well, look who we have here!" Anna turned to see Lauren standing behind her, a glass of champagne in hand, her expression unreadable. "You must be having quite the evening," Lauren said, her tone polite but laced with something darker. "I've heard people talking about you all night." Anna forced a smile, trying to maintain her composure. "I'm sure they have." Lauren took a step closer, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You're not what I expected when Ethan said he was bringing a date." Anna could feel the tension in the air, the unspoken challenge in Lauren's words. "I guess I'm full of surprises," she replied, her voice steady. Lauren's smile didn't reach her eyes. Ethan always did have a soft spot for charity cases. The words hung in the air like a slap. Anna's heart pounded in her chest, but she refused to let Lauren see how much it hurt. Instead, she stood her ground, meeting Lauren's gaze with quiet strength. "I'm not a charity case," Anna said calmly. "I'm here because Ethan wanted me here." Lauren's smile faltered, a flicker of frustration crossing her face. "I'm sure you believe that," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "But let me give you a piece of advice. Men like Ethan don't stay with women like you. You're just a temporary distraction, someone to make him feel better about himself." Anna's blood boiled, but before she could respond, a voice cut through the tension. "That's enough, Lauren." Both women turned to see Ethan standing a few feet away, his expression dark. He had heard everything. Lauren's smile vanished, replaced by a look of irritation. "Ethan, You were just being cruel," Ethan interrupted, his voice cold. "Anna is here because I wanted her here. Not as some distraction, and not as some pawn in whatever game you think we're playing. She's here because she's the only real person in this room." Lauren's eyes flashed with anger, but she quickly composed herself. "I see," she said, her tone icy. "Well, enjoy the rest of the evening." With that, she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving Ethan and Anna standing in the wake of the confrontation. Ethan turned to Anna, his expression softening. "I'm sorry about that," he said quietly. "I should have known she'd try something like that." Anna shook her head, still reeling from the encounter. "It's not your fault." Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't bring you here to prove anything to her. I brought you because I wanted to remind myself of what really matters. And you reminded me." Anna looked up at him, her heart swelling with emotion. For so long she had felt invisible, unworthy. But standing here, in this world that wasn't her own, she realized that her worth wasn't defined by the opinions of people like Lauren. It was something deeper, something that couldn't be taken away. "You don't have to apologize," Anna said softly. "I'm glad I came." Ethan smiled, a genuine warmth in his eyes. "So am I." As the night wore on, Anna found herself dancing with Ethan under the glittering chandeliers, the weight of the evening's tension slowly fading away. For the first time in months, she felt like she belonged, not to this world of wealth and privilege, but to something greater, to herself. And as the music swirled around them, Anna realized that this was just the beginning. Not of a romance, perhaps, but of something far more important, a journey back to herself. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. If this story of courage, transformation, and self-worth resonated with you, we invite you to like and subscribe to our channel for more powerful and heartfelt stories. Stay tuned for more content that reminds us all that no matter where you come from, you deserve to be seen, valued, and respected. Your support allows us to keep sharing stories that inspire and uplift. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video.